Good evening, everyone. It's Melissa, and we are shooting our 29th episode of WTF, or Wednesday Thought Forum. I'll give people a moment here to chime in and tune in, and if you are joining us, send me a wave so that I can see and acknowledge you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the comments bar, and I will try to address those as well as we talk through this topic. Today's topic is going to be about 7 powerful tips for effective listening. I know a couple weeks ago I had a Facebook post on something about listening, and it was interesting to see some of the responses. So I figured this might be a good topic, especially now since there's a lot of miscommunication in the world. And this is a very important topic and a very important part of communication. So what is effective listening? Effective listening is very, very crucial part of life. You need to be able to communicate, whether it's life, relationships, work, etc. Communication is a big part of life. Strong communication skills equal long-term relationships, better partnerships, better understanding of others, and other aspects or phases of your life. So most of us forget that listening is half of the communication process. Hi, Mary Ellen. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining this evening. If you have any questions, just post them, or comments, just post them in the comment bar, and I will try to address them as we go along. We are talking about 7 tips to effective listening. So thanks for joining. So most of us forget that listening is half of the communication process. So why are listening skills important? I know it sounds like a silly question, but again, many of us forget. So many of us just listen enough to form opinions or to form responses of our own. And when we listen for just that moment, then that's when we stop listening. So why do we listen just long enough to form our own opinions? Again, it's because we've listened long enough to form our own opinions for us to express or respond. One of our greatest pleasures as human beings is to feel understood by another person. So we don't want to feel misunderstood by that other person unless we know that they are actively listening to us. When we know that they are actively listening to us, then we are more prone to open up to them. So that is why it's important to be an active listener and effective listener. When you combine listening with empathy, then the bond is stronger. And again, we tend to just naturally open up more to that person. Did you know being an effective listener also benefits the listener? So when we talk about effective listening, we gain a better or greater understanding of what is being said. There's also another advantage to being a good listener, and that's we have an open mind and we learn more, and it opens up our horizons to something that we may not have known about. It's easy to get trapped inside our own little worlds, but when you start to listen to others, then you also will start to learn from others. What qualities do you think makes a good listener? Well, typically most people, when we listen, we're just listening partially, or we may have another conversation going on in our head, may be distracted by another topic, or we just, again, listen enough to form our own opinions. But good listeners have these qualities, so keep these in mind. They are emotionally intelligent, and what that means is they are aware of their own feelings. So when someone is aware of their own feelings, then they are also open-minded and aware of the other person who's speaking to you, their feelings. And again, with an open mind. Good listeners will ask sound follow-up questions when they're listening, and then they ask questions to gain a better understanding of the person who is speaking to them. Good listeners are also comfortable with silence when the person speaking to them is maybe stops speaking to think for a moment or gather their thoughts. And then good listeners don't get offensive. So what qualities do you think is effective listening? Well, effective listeners, they actively understand the information that the provider or the speaker is providing to them. The effective listening is also showing a genuine interest in the topic and taking interest, not just kind of looking around while the other person's talking. And then sometimes, the conversation may entail some feedback. So the person listening the person speaking may want the listener to provide some feedback. So you need to pay attention. There are benefits to effective listening. When you listen to people, it builds trust and relationships. Productivity goes up. Your relationships are not only longer, but they are better. Again, it goes back to trust and bonding. And then you're a greater problem solver, and that pretty much is because, again, you're open-minded and you're learning while you go. So here are the 7 tips to be an effective listener. Number 1 is to be attentive and relaxed. Again, the most important part of communication is to be attentive and just being in the present, being focused, and that the speaker knows that you are present and focused. Block out any distractions, no cell phones, computers, or you may be writing notes, but again, make sure that you look back up and show the attentiveness. Number 2 would be to maintain eye contact and to face the person who is speaking to you. So when I say to face the person that's speaking to you, this kind of takes away any distractions that you may have because you're actually facing them. And the eye contact, again, just makes you focus on the person who's speaking to you and takes away less distractions. Again, don't look at no phones or computers or anything else that may be distracting to you. Just keep an eye on them and focus. Number 3, some people will listen and paint a picture as the person is speaking to them. While they're listening, they kind of draw a mental picture of what is actually being said. And then this sometimes with visual learners will clarify to the listener about what is being said so they understand it better. Number 4 is a big one for many people, and I'm guilty of doing number 4 a lot, and that is do not interrupt. So when I was talking to my therapist, she brought up a good point. It really is effective with listening to teenagers and little ones, but adults too. And she had always told me that when she started a conversation with someone or someone wanted her to listen, she would ask them just for a mindset purpose, do you want me to just listen to listen, or do you want me to listen to respond? And I think this is a very clever question to ask whoever is going to be communicating to you, especially if it's one-on-one, because then you can get in the mindset. I know I get in the mindset that if they just want me to listen, then that's what I will do, is just listen. But if they want me to provide a response or advice, then I will be actively listening to do that instead. So again, it just kind of prepares the mindset. But you do not want to interrupt. So think about it. The last time you may have had an argument or a disagreement with someone and you're trying to convey your story, but that person keeps interrupting you. It gets pretty frustrating, right? Well, the same concept holds true to someone who is speaking. When you interrupt, sometimes it can convey the message that you're not interested or you don't care about what they're saying. It can also give an impression to the person who is speaking that what you are saying may be more important. So just let them finish their conversation. Any thoughts you have, then you can follow up or write them down as the speaker goes along. Number 5 is to ask questions to clarify and understand the speaker. So when the speaker is done and they allow you to ask any follow-up questions, Make sure that the questions or the words that you use are pretty effective. Like, ask questions that will help you clarify any misunderstandings or questions that you may be having or thinking when the other person is speaking. And one thing to note is, don't ask a question in the middle of their speech or in the middle of their story or anything, because it can totally redirect a conversation into another direction where the speaker didn't even want to go. So make sure you hold on to any questions after they're done speaking. Number 6 is sometimes a hard one for many too, and that's to keep an open mind. Don't judge. Again, it's hard, and as humans, we tend to do this, some more than others. But give the speaker a chance to say what they want to say or share what they want to say. If they say something that gives you concern or disagreement, save that thought until they're done, and keep an open mind. Because if you say something or you have that thought before they're even done, then you may not keep your open mind, and you may misunderstand or not even listen to what they're saying. And it could totally clarify, if you were listening and keeping an open mind, it could totally clarify what your concern or disagreement was with them before they even done speaking. So again, save your questions until afterwards, and if you still have a disagreement or a concern with them, then just address it or express your concerns or ask those questions that will clarify. And last but not least, number 7 is empathy. And some people don't have this, or some people have to really work hard for this. It's different than sympathy. Sympathy is just kind of acknowledging that you're sorry, or condolences if someone passes or something like that. But empathy is different. Empathy is actually feeling what the other person is feeling. So it's putting yourself in their shoes and understanding where they are coming from, or a mindset of where they're coming from, or their point of view. Do your best to, again, get into their mindset of what the other person's speaking, and then this kind of helps you clarify what they may be sharing with you as well. It's not an easy thing to do, and it does take practice, so don't be frustrated if you are not the biggest of empathizers. And then there's some of us that are huge empathizers, or what we would call empaths. I am one of those, guilty again. But when we're listening, if the person who's speaking is sad, and then you start to feel sad, that is a sign of empathy. And this pretty much goes with any emotion, such as anger, excitement, happiness. If they are expressing it and then you start to feel it, that's a sign of empathy. And if you can do that, then you have done a very good job listening. So to conclude this session, just remember that, again, listening is half of the communication process. And it does take work and practice. It's not easy. But when you learn to master listening, then it becomes more clear, and your interactions with people are more positive. Using these 7 tips will greatly improve your communication and relationships with others. So if you like this material, feel free to drop a note in the comments. And if you have a topic that you want to discuss or something, again, leave a message in the comments and I'll research that and we can talk about that in the next WTF episode. You can find me on my blog at thinkmefirst.com. I'm also on Pinterest at pinterest.com/thinkmefirst. And then I'm also on YouTube, where I post all of our WTF videos. In the subject line or in the search bar, just type in Melissa Shim and all those will come up. And if you want additional information, tips, tricks, hacks, I also, to life or self-improvement, I also send out emails. So you can go to thinkmefirst.com and sign up for those. And I send those out once or twice a week. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I just want to wish you guys a very peaceful evening. And again, thanks for those that showed up or will be watching later. Everyone take care and think me first. Have a good evening.